Racer with more water rides than any other water park in Southern California. Raging Waters Los Angeles is recognized as the state's largest water park. For more information, visit ragingwaters.com. Open Road Radio, Monday night at 6 on KSHP, North Las Vegas, AM and FM, 829-68B, North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
All right, what's up, everybody? It is Thursday. We've almost made it through the week. How about that? Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, we're live on the FM AM dial on KSHP, broadcasting everywhere else so you can see my ugly mug on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. Jeez, it's exhausting, but we're all over the place, and we're glad you make us a part of your early afternoon here in Las Vegas. We got some great guests today. We're going to have some fun. Hunter Biden was just indicted, and no, not for having sex with underage Chinese girls, as some people would like to say, but we will get to that. That is the breaking news. Great guests lined up for you. Hour number 2, I want to get legal expertise. Tim Treffinger, great attorney. He's going to be joining us hour number 2. Get his thoughts on the 4 indictments of Donald Trump, not from a biased Republican or Democrat perspective, but from a legal perspective. Is Donald Trump in real serious legal trouble? We'll ask Tim those questions and much more coming up in hour number 2. But I got a friend of mine who's in studio right now. His name is Alan Bigelow, and he is running for Assembly District 5. He's done this show before as a Republican. And, you know, he gave me this campaign sign behind me, and he signed it for me, and I'm going to lose a lot of street credibility with some Democrats for it, but that's okay because I like Alan, and I don't care. Anyway, Alan, thank you so much for being here. I know you have an event tonight.
Yeah, we do. We're running hard. The campaign's rolling, and Tim, your second guest, when he comes in, he's amazing.
Good dude. Yep.
I've actually recommended him to several family members and friends for legal advice as their lawyer.
He's very smart, very smart guy, and I have some people like to hide their voting, who they vote for. I really don't give two craps. I voted for 8 Republicans in the 2022 midterms, and I know, can you believe it? Tim Treffinger was one of them. I voted for Stavros Anthony. I didn't vote for our governor, but when he won, I said to myself, this guy's not going to fall. I use the term MAGA Republican a lot, and I can tell you that Joe Lombardo is not a MAGA Republican. I think he's fairly moderate compared to a lot of the Republicans out there today. And I said, listen, things are going to be okay. I don't think he's going to be a bad governor. He's doing just fine.
Yeah, I really believe our governor is in it for the people and for the right reasons. And that's shown in the things that he's done. He tried to bring in school choice. He's vetoed bills that were horribly written. 75 bills is a record for any governor.
I don't hate him.
I don't. Yeah, and I've spoke with him a couple of times, and some I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, just recently. But the thing is he's doing things for the people of Nevada. He's not doing things for Joe Lombardo.
I hope so. I hope you're right. I would be willing to believe that. I hope you're right. He won't do my show because he thinks I'm going to grill him, which I wouldn't. I would treat him with respect, just like I treated Steve Sisolak with respect. And I don't think Steve Sisolak was this horrible governor either. He made some mistakes, but he had a really tough job during COVID. And I don't think both of them are horrible people. I think they're both decent people. I know some people would disagree with me on that.
You've shown that. You've had Oscar Goodman on before.
Absolutely. Oscar's a friend of mine. Yeah, Oscar's a good dude. I like Oscar a lot. I've had his wife on. I have more Republicans on this show than Democrats. But it seems like...
Do you have a fever? Are you okay? What's going on here?
You know what, Alan? There's a difference between somebody like you, and you know how much I respect you, and somebody like a Larry Elder, okay? I had Larry Elder on my show a couple times. He probably won't come back on because I just think he's a bad guy. And he's not honest and he's not sincere. There are just certain, and listen, there are Democrats like that too out there. I'm not saying they're only Republicans, but the certain Republicans that come on my show that don't want to answer questions. And
I'll answer anything. Yeah.
No, I know that.
Even if I don't know an answer, I'll just tell you I don't know.
I know that. And on top of the fact, and we've talked about this, and I keep bringing it up, and I want to when you come on, is that you served this country honorably. You're a former police officer. You're still a firefighter, and I have the ultimate respect for that. But on
9/11, really quick.
Yep.
My fire department actually has one of the fire trucks that was served at in both actual World Trade Center, and I did a documentary on it, and actually won an award for the documentary. But it was the old Ladder 117, and now in Pahrump it's actually called Tower Ladder 1.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a truck that we've used on multiple. I mean, over the years, and on the side, I was asked to design some kind of a tribute thing, and so on it has a sticker, decal for the Twin Towers, and commemorating the fact that it served at both of the bombings.
And very emotional day. You being a firefighter,
Oh, yeah,
it's an emotional
for
for everybody.
For sure, and
I talked about this on 9/11. How I was, going to school that day, listening to Howard Stern, and he said a plane hit the World Trade Center building, and didn't think much of it. And then I walk out of the classroom and I see people huddled around a TV. This was before we had flat screens.
Yeah,
I'm old, and I saw the Trade Center buildings collapsing, and then one of my teachers said, "Brian, remember this day because we'll never be the same country again."
No,
and he was
won't.
right.
Yeah. I had friends in the Pentagon. Senior non-commissioned officers and people that were mentors to me. One of them specifically, he was there and he's gone.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's so terrible.
But the thing is, we have to take the lessons. We have to teach our in the military anyway. I had to teach the junior guys. This is what this is about. This is about carrying on the defense of our nation, carrying on the lessons that sergeant major had taught me, so that they could come behind me and go to places like Afghanistan and Iraq and Saudi Arabia and through Desert Storm and all of the other battles that have happened since, and take care of their soldiers and be that leader that they have to be. And that's something I'm very, very proud of.
And you should be. And, that week at least, I feel like the country really came together. It didn't matter whether you were a Republican or a Democrat. The country came together. And I dislike George W. Bush as a president, but I thought it was a very poignant, and we played it the other day, of his presidency when he took that megaphone and he said, "I hear you, the world hears you, and they're going to hear you too." The people who did this to us,
and they did.
Didn't like the war in Iraq. I don't think going back on it, I don't think anybody should like the war in Iraq. But at that moment, even a Rudy Giuliani, who I think is a complete disgrace now, but back then I thought he did a really good job. He was like a hero, and George W. Bush
he mobilized New York.
Listen, Joe Biden should have been there. So should have Donald Trump the other day. They both weren't there. Joe Biden's the president. I don't care where he was. He needed to be there that day. I'm glad the vice president was there. Even though, again, I despise Ron DeSantis, I'm glad he was there shaking hands. He did the right thing. Joe Biden should have been there. Every president, unless they're sick or there's some sort of crazy emergency, every president should be in New York on 9/11. And I was very upset that Joe Biden wasn't there.
Or in the field in Pennsylvania, one of the two.
Yeah,
somewhere. It was just such a mobilizing and solidifying event for our country. I didn't even know how to express the emotions and the feelings because, like I said, I had friends in the Pentagon that died. My fire chief had buddies in New York. He came from Pennsylvania. Yeah. He has friends in New York that they died. They're not there. They're gone.
Let me ask you a question, Alan, because me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, with that being said, I don't think this was an inside job. This was Osama bin Laden. This was Al-Qaeda. Yeah. Yes, there could have been some members of our government that maybe got, and they did get warnings that this may have happened, but I don't believe this was an inside job. With that being said, I've always believed that plane in Pennsylvania was shot down. Why do I feel that way? Well, for a number of different reasons. Number one, there were witnesses that saw fighter jets in that area right when the plane went down. Number two, you saw that crater in the ground. They didn't find a piece of that plane larger than maybe a foot or two. It had all the evidence that it was shot down. Now, I understand there were probably heroes on that flight. We know that there were.
Oh, absolutely.
And there were people that went towards the cockpit, and those were heroes, and they should be called that.
And they tried to take the plane back. And I
think... And I appreciate that, but I don't know. And listen...
With the speed of the... Okay, and I have some unique perspective in there because I actually took aviation management as a major in college through Embry-Riddle. And understanding the construction of the airplanes, and I have a pilot's license in the past that I need to finish it up because I had kids, and so I didn't get to finish it. But flying's a fun thing to do.
Sure.
But when you understand the aerodynamics and the effects of jet fuel at 500 miles an hour, it's not like it's just falling out of the sky. It's barreling in like a missile, and the explosions that come from that are catastrophic. I mean, they will just level anything, and that's what happened. And so I hadn't heard anything about being shot out of the sky, but
It may not have.
I think honestly it was, the fact that the plane was going full blast when it hit the ground.
Upside down.
Upside down. I mean, you had,
It may not have.
patriots on that plane,
No question.
fighting
Heroes.
to take that plane, and keep it from hurting anybody else.
Heroes.
And those guys, huge respect.
No question. They risked their lives, and and even if it wasn't shot down, regardless,
They kept it from doing.
they
any
kept
more
it from
damage.
going into Washington
Yeah,
D.C.
yeah.
And who knows more carnage that could have happened. So I agree with you. All right, Alan, let's get to some of the big national news stories.
Sure, let's talk about national news. I love.
Let's
national news
start
today.
before we get to the Hunter Biden news of him being
Okay.
indicted. Let's start with Joe Biden. Let's start with Mr. McCarthy. I think you know my opinion on this from the get-go. They have found zero real evidence. Number one. that
Well,
Joe-
we talked about that last time.
there's no
and
direct evidence that Joe Biden committed a crime.
that's I think why they have opened up the potential to go to a impeachment, because they want to be able to find all of the evidence. And we spoke about it last time. If there's real evidence, they want to have all their ducks in a row. They don't want to go half-cocked like has been in a couple of the indictments against President Trump so far.
But can I stop you there
Sure.
and just say he's facing 91 felony counts? I think that makes them look pretty good as far as, geez, we probably did the right thing. I think of Hillary
Well,
Clinton.
if
I
you-
think of
if-
Benghazi.
If you throw enough poop on the wall, something's going to stick. Even if it ends up being he gets mad in court and tells the judge he's an idiot and gets found guilty of contempt. I mean, after all of that stress and all that kind of thing, it would make sense.
But you know why McCarthy's doing this. Come on, Alan.
Well,
he's
we're-
doing it because the MAGA Republicans and Donald Trump, we know, had meetings with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and others. Isn't that the definition of election interference? When we have evidence that that his political rival is trying to and has succeeded in an impeachment inquiry, isn't that election interference?
I think it really goes back to our First Amendment, freedom of speech and the right to petition the government. He's asking questions, and I mean, was there misappropriate actions in there? I don't know. I don't know the evidence.
But to impeach a president, don't you have to have some evidence that wrongdoing was committed? There's been nothing.
Well-
Nobody's shown any. They keep saying $20 million. Go back because there's so much I want to talk about here. You have Jared Kushner, who received and his wife, who received $3 billion from the Saudis, and they're talking about $20 million in a bank account. Listen. First of all, there's no correlation to that in Joe Biden. They haven't proven that yet. Until they do, it doesn't mean anything to me. We know that Jared Kushner and Ivanka received $3 billion. Let me repeat that, $3 billion. Why? Well, we know that Jared Kushner did a $110 billion deal with the Saudis. We know that. I'm sure that has something to do with it. Yet none of these Republicans want to talk about that. Not only to me is the definition of hypocrisy, but Hunter Biden never worked in the Biden administration. You know, Jared Kushner was the Secretary of State. And they gave him $2 billion. I mean, no Republican seems to want to talk about that.
I think you can agree that's probably why they call it the swamp. There's a lot of mired efforts in there that we need to clean up. We need to get in the people that are going to do the job. We need to get the people that are not in it for themselves. And we've talked more than once on this. I'm not here for Alan. I'm here for the people in Nevada. I'm here for my grandkids and my children and my great grandkids whenever they show up. What happens to me doesn't matter. What happens to them does.
And I understand that, and I respect
And
that.
so if we can get people elected into those, that are that kind of person, and I think maybe that's where, Joe Lombardo came in, because he's not looking out for Joe Lombardo. He's looking out for Nevada. What President Biden is doing, what Hunter Biden is doing, Hunter Biden is up on 3 indictments now, or 3 charges rather. Let me say it properly. 3 charges. Innocent until proven guilty is the only thing I
but
can
you
say.
hear a
in
lot
there.
of Republicans. Of course, I say the same thing about
even
Trump.
even with with President Trump,
I
innocent
say-
until proven guilty.
No question. I say that all the
If
time.
an impeachment committee comes up and says, we have enough to impeach the president, then they've got something. But we haven't seen the evidence yet.
Right.
We haven't seen what they've been investigating, and they haven't released it. And I think they're doing it on purpose because they don't want to come off half-baked.
Well, when Comer is asked what's the direct evidence, and he has none, when McCarthy is asked that and he refuses to answer the question, I think that's a problem. I will also say a lot of Republicans out there call it a two-tier justice system, which I think is a joke. And I looked into this. Hunter Biden got indicted for something that so many legal experts that are not politically biased would say people just don't get indicted for. So no, I do not believe it's a two-tier justice system. Listen, I've been very consistent on this. If Hunter Biden broke the law, I want him held to account. No question.
And should be. And if he hasn't, then leave him alone.
Right, but this is not a two-tier justice system. And the reason why I bring up Benghazi and Hillary Clinton, this is very similar to that. McCarthy said back in 2016 he did the Benghazi investigations and he believed it helped Donald Trump win the 2016 election. To me, that's election interference. What did they find? 8 investigations into Benghazi. Hillary Clinton testified under oath, all led by Republicans, and they found nothing. In my opinion, that's what's going to happen here with Joe Biden. Hunter Biden is a private citizen. Until you put up laws that say you can't take advantage of who your father is, or mother, or wherever, there are no laws like that put into place. And again, I think it comes down to credibility. What do I mean by that? Again, I go back to Jared Kushner, and I'm going to continue bringing this up. If you think $20 million, the Biden family made $20 million, Burisma, Hunter was making $50,000 a month, okay, then why don't you look into Jared Kushner? Now, I know the Democrats are trying to open up an investigation into that, and
if he's done something wrong, he should pay the price too.
Well, but
that's why I think, we get into this two-tiered justice system, and a lot of people see it like that because they don't see what's going on with the rest of it. And I understand that very well because, I've had to stand up a couple of times when accusations are made and prove the situation was what it was. And I think lesser people would have crumbled under that. But, and I'm not saying I'm the greatest guy there is because, obviously things happen and life happens and you do what you have to do. But if there are true mishandlings of situations, we need to be clear about it. We need to be transparent to the people of the United States. That's going to give the people in power trust again. That's going to give our people, the citizens, are going to believe in our government again.
Alan,
we have to do that.
If they can prove in a court of law that Hunter committed maybe more crimes or more serious, then fine, so be it. But here's the reality of the situation as far as I see it. Donald Trump is facing 91 felony counts. I've read the indictments. I've read the indictment involving Jack Smith, the prosecutor there, and in Georgia. I've read the evidence, and they're going to have to prove that in a court of law. The problem I have here is there is still, to this point, 5 years investigating the Bidens and Joe Biden. No clear, present, and no direct evidence that Joe Biden broke any laws or even did anything wrong. Now, you have some witnesses out there. Oh, Biden was on this phone call. Guess what? Nobody's under oath. Not one person is under oath claiming that Joe Biden did anything wrong. Just because you have somebody say, oh, Biden was on that phone call. Listen, is it possible that Biden might have been on a phone call with some of Hunter Biden's business associates? I guess that's possible, and it might also be possible that Biden didn't even know who he was talking to.
And with the current state of his mental acuity, that's probably very possible. But the other thing too is when we talk about who is, because you're going to go in front of a jury of your peers. How many presidents can you put into a jury box? If you have a president, it's a jury of your peers. So where are we going to find 12 presidents?
Yeah, that's tough to do.
Listen, even if it's 12 unbiased senators or congressmen or governors, who are we really going to? We're not going to find these guys. So at best, this is my prediction. One of two things. I think that Trump's legal team has enough skill and knowledge that they'll either get everything thrown out or it'll result in a hung jury. And it's just because of that, because you're not going to find enough people for the jury poll that are actually his peers, and they're going to fight it on that point because when you go into any courtroom, I'm 61. So if we're going to go find a jury of peers for me, they better be between 55 and 70, or else my lawyer is going to just ace that jury right out of the room.
Yeah.
And they should.
Yeah.
Because that's what our legal system is there for.
Help me out with this, Alan. And I think you'll agree with me on this. Most of this country, they don't want to see Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. I'm one of them. And I don't want to see Joe Biden run again because, yes, I do think he's too old. I'd like to see somebody younger in office. With that being said, and I don't want to see, by the way, our vice president as president either because I'm not a big fan of hers either. However, with that being said, I would still vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. Not just because of all the felony counts that he is facing. And yes, I do believe he's going to be a convicted felon. I think anybody who thinks that these 91 felony counts and is going to be found innocent on all these counts has another thing coming. First of all, I don't want a convicted felon as president. So
what do we tell the countries that have these hostile takeovers? And obviously, when a new president comes into, I'm just going to make up a name for a country, big box country, and we have a president in there, but then we have a military leader that doesn't like him and he goes in and he kills him. Well, automatically he just became a felony and he just took over the country.
Yeah.
But then we start negotiating with him.
Well, there are Republicans. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned negotiate because the number 3 Republican who was on this show a few weeks ago, Vivek Ramaswamy, wants to negotiate with Vladimir Putin and wants to maybe give Vladimir Putin parts of Ukraine, which I think is what crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Vivek.
I think Vivek doesn't understand why we're in the Ukraine.
I think a lot of Republicans don't understand that.
We told them back in the 70s, the 80s, I'm sorry. We told them, said, listen, disarm, get rid of your nuclear bombs, get rid of your nuclear missiles. If you get into trouble, here we come. All right, well, they did, and we have. And it's costing us billions and billions of dollars while our country is suffering and Hawaii is suffering. And
sure.
Here in Nevada, we just had a massive rainstorm, the most rain in less than a week.
Sounds like we might have another one today.
Yeah, it was raining on the way in.
Yeah.
So, we're sending money out, but we haven't focused on our own country before we started sending that money out. And I think we're missing the boat in our foreign policy there because we have to take care of America first.
I think we can do both.
We can, but not to the extent that we're doing it because we have, it's going to take, just for the example, the highway out between Las Vegas and Pahrump is going to take probably $1 million to repair. It just is what it is. It's just the kind of damage that was done. Whole sections of the highway have been just totally destroyed.
I agree with your sentiment that we need to take care of our own.
We got to do ourselves first. Take care of us. And then let's take care of the rest of the country.
I do believe, though,
or the rest of the world,
making sure that Ukraine wins this war will help ensure that Russia maybe doesn't try taking over another country.
For sure. I think that we shouldn't, they shouldn't be just handed a little bit, a little bit. Let's tell them what they need to get done, but let's take care of our country first.
Well, when I saw images of Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un hanging out the other day, I had dreams of somebody taking both of them out at the same time. And I'm going to be honest with you, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people publicly like to talk about this, but this is the fact of the matter. They both need to be taken out. They're both evil, murderous dictators that need to die.
So
they need to be killed.
So Vladimir Putin goes and sees his lesser redheaded stepbrother, and I'm not picking on redheads, to get help.
Yep.
And I'm like, he's going to a country that Russia sold their old crap to get their old crap back to go fight a war that they're getting their butts kicked in.
Yeah.
So he's going to go back and get these old T-60 or T-72s and T-80 tanks that are 30 and 40 years old.
Yeah.
That barely run, that they don't probably even have the ammunition for anymore.
Right.
And try and fight chieftains that the British have supplied, and the artillery that we've supplied, and I'm going, what kind of war is this turning into? This, the Russians are losing against
But this is very
little
dangerous.
Country.
This is dangerous when he meets with Kim Jong-un. You know why he's doing that.
Well,
he wants his weapons. And
he wants his weapons, but what he's going to get is crap.
I hope so.
because that's all
worried,
they've
though.
got.
I hope
You know?
so.
The
But-
only thing that they could actually really supply them with is some Chinese-made AK-47s.
Well, I hope you're right. But when I see them hanging out, I think to myself how much safer the world would be if those two were taken out. And
Well,
some
it's an
people,
intimidation picture is all it is.
the second person's going to go in command. No,
Yeah,
Vladimir
no.
Putin's the reason why they invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
While we can get into discussions and debate, maybe we've sent them too much artillery, we've helped them too much, we've spent too much money. I think that is a reasonable conversation to have. But you know what I'm talking about when the Tucker Carlsons and the extreme MAGAs out there going on social media saying, we hope Ukraine loses. I mean, there are people out there that are making those statements, and it's utterly disgusting.
We never want to see a country be taken over by another country for that kind of thing. Country's sovereignty is sacred.
Yeah.
It's the right of those people that, you know, do they have the best systems in place? Maybe not, but you know what? It's their country and it's their border, and we made a commitment to support them if they would disarm their nuclear weapons. And they did.
I don't think I've even ever asked you this question, but of all the Republicans that were up on that debate stage a few weeks ago, are there people that you would rather choose over Donald Trump on that stage that you could see yourself voting for over Joe Biden?
Well, certainly not Chris Christie.
Why? Tell me why.
Chris
Is it because he's
Christie-
going after Trump?
No.
Okay.
No. Chris Christie is just one of the biggest blowhard do-nothings I've ever seen in my life. The fact that he got into the position that he's in was just pure luck, and
You don't think he was a good governor?
I don't think he was a good
No.
governor at all. He's just not. He's just not.
I like the fact that he's on the right side of history now.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
You know, finally. But I mean, he has to get beat up every day for it until he does. But yeah, if I saw some potential talent, I saw some real potential talent, and I shared with you my top three there. You know, DeSantis did very well. Vivek did very well, even
You
though we
think
don't
DeSantis
agree.
did well? Why do you say that?
He held
I don't
his
understand.
own. He held his own, and he didn't really lose any ground. I saw the vice president lose a lot of ground because he got upset and was just like, I'm part of the old guard and you don't mean anything, to Vivek, basically. And I was like, wow.
Well, Mike Pence certainly got aggressive.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ron DeSantis for
Okay.
because I'm trying to understand why Republicans like him. And
It's not. I don't know that it's necessarily that everybody likes him. I think that they've seen his success in Florida, and they translate that into something as a executive leader.
so when you say success in Florida, help me understand.
So
What
he-
type of success? Because when you talk about COVID, he wasn't successful.
No.
Per capita, they lost more people in Florida than almost any other state in the country.
Well, look at the age
His-
groups too.
Well, I mean, we could say that, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, he's anti-mask, anti-vaccine, culture wars. When you look at what happened at Disney, losing $1 billion company there because, in my opinion, because of his ego and stupidity, he talks about wokeness and anti this and anti that. I'm just going on a tangent here, but I'm telling you why I don't like the guy. At wokeness and this and that. He talks about transgenders. He talks about all the things he's anti. What are you for? Like, I don't.
Well, let's pick on Disney for a minute, and because I have been a Disney fan my whole life.
Me too.
You know, I went to Disney World the year it was open. I've been there. I can't even count the times now. We just took the grandkids over to Disneyland for a fun weekend, and we
cool.
had a great time. Disney, as a company in Florida, became its own government. So I think the people, and I had been there more than once and seen the news. You know, when
What
we
do you
come
mean?
back in,
They became their own
they
government?
became their
What
own
do you mean?
government, essentially.
How so?
They had their own fire department. They had their own rules and regulations. They had their own codes specifically for the geographical Disney area. And the taxation rates and everything else was very, very favorable for Disney. Probably rightfully so at the beginning. Disney has become a very successful company as a result of it. Sure. And the people of the Florida are looking at it going, well, what about the rest of this state? Why aren't we getting that kind of attention? Why aren't we getting those kind of special treatments? And so I just, and it's an opinion based on just what I've seen in the travels that I've done. And the people in Florida that I've talked to, because I have, family in Florida, just as like half a dozen other states here, but they look at it I have actually relatives that are working for Disney. So seeing how that worked and seeing how the economics of the Orlando area have changed and well as Kissimmee and all of that, they have developed a great business plan. They want to see it become fair, tax basis, and inclusiveness for the rest of the state. And I think that's where he was trying to go.
So with all that being said,
I know it's a mouthful for
no, and you might very well be right. But the Don't Say Gay bill, and I know people want to say, Brian, it's not the Don't Say Gay bill. I believe it is, but that's another story. But after that bill came forward, Disney CEO, they were outspoken about it, defending the LGBT community, which, by the way, they have the right to do.
It's a privately owned company. You do what you want to with your company.
Thank you. We agree. And then the days, weeks, and months after that, DeSantis punishes the company. What do? They say, okay, we're jumping ship. We're getting out of Florida. And now, all of a sudden, Ron DeSantis is backtracking. Why? Because they're filing a lawsuit against him, which they're probably going to win. Mr. DeSantis, it's too late. Let me give you the one thing that Ron DeSantis did that would lead somebody like me to say, I would never vote for this guy again, and it speaks volumes about his character. And it is the plane where he shipped these migrants to Martha's Vineyard. He didn't do it because he cared about them. He didn't do it because he was humane. He did it for one reason and one reason
to prove a point.
Right, and to use... It's okay to prove a point, but when you use human beings, there was a lady on that plane that was pregnant. There was a 3-year-old child. He lied. He gave them brochures, and this was he decided to do this.
Okay.
Greg Abbott does the exact same thing. In fact, he just shipped a bunch of people into a hurricane in California. These are the types of things that, forget about even a politician. If you're a human being, you have no respect for other human beings. These were not rapists, as Donald Trump would lead you to believe. These were good people that were seeking asylum, and Ron DeSantis decided to use these human beings as political pawns. When you do something like that, not only, in my opinion, do you lose all your credibility about certainly the issue of immigration and the border, but I think it goes to show you the person that he is. Now, listen, he served his country just like you did. I have the utmost respect for people that serve their country. He risked his life for his country. But all that aside, him doing that, I could never support this guy. And I don't understand.
Well, I think it would have been a wise move to vet the people that he sending a 3-year-old
and a pregnant woman.
And a pregnant woman. Probably not the best idea. And I think,
it's a horrible idea.
I think that's what I'm saying. If he would have vetted that group as being able-bodied adults, I think that would have been a better situation than setting a 3-year-old and a pregnant
woman. Why
woman.
send them to Martha's Vineyard to begin with?
Well, I mean, why push them into Florida? Why push them into Texas? Why push them into anywhere?
I'll answer that.
Wait, let me finish here.
Okay.
Why push them into somewhere that, A, they have no resources to take care of them to start with because they're already overwhelmed. And if a place is saying, I'm a sanctuary city, well, guess what? Buckle up, Chuck, because you know what? Here they come. We need help, and you're it. So, on the other hand, I think that's kind of what both of them said, is said, Tag, you're it. Whether they went to New York or Martha's Vineyard or Chicago or Detroit or wherever else they're being sent. Should we be marketing children like that? No, not at all. Never, ever should we be, taking advantage of children like that. That's just wrong.
Line? I agree, but isn't there a fine line between sending migrants to Martha's Vineyard, where we know there are no homeless shelters? And by the way, the good people of Martha's Vineyard took care of them. They helped them, and then they were bused to an area where there were shelters in another state. Or I believe they sent them to Boston, if I'm not mistaken.
They picked up a high school ball field.
Correct.
And a gymnasium.
Correct. So the good people of Martha's Vineyard took care of them because there were nice people there but he knew exactly what he was doing. And in regards to Texas and Florida, there are homeless shelters there, and there are some places where people can go to get help. They were sent to Martha's Vineyard as political pawns, and I just think it's despicable. There's a reason why Ron DeSantis' numbers have been declining and declining and declining, in my opinion. Because
and then you're seeing Vivek's going up, and you see
they have,
and you see now I lost her name. Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley, yep.
Her numbers are going up.
Well, she had a good debate. I would vote for Nikki Haley over Ron DeSantis any day of the week. Vivek, to me, he's well spoken and he's very articulate.
I think he'd be a great vice president.
He's intelligent, but he's a hypocrite. And let me give you, you know what? Here's what I want to do. I want to take a break.
Okay.
And then I'm going to dissect Vivek Ramaswamy and hypocrisy, and I want to get your thoughts on that.
Sure.
If you're just joining us, we love having Alan Bigelow in studio. Of course, he's running for Assembly District 5, as you can see behind me. And he's got a big event tonight. I want to give him an opportunity to talk about that event, a campaign event that he's got going on tonight as well. So we're going to take a quick break. And Alan's going to stick around for another segment. Then hour number 2, we've got attorney Tim Treffinger coming in studio. I always need good legal advice. People are always trying to sue me left
And
and
he's
right.
a good leader.
Yes, he is.
Lawyer.
Tim's a
Yeah,
leader and a lawyer.
A
He's
leader
good at
and a
both.
lawyer. Yeah, he's both.
Yeah, he'd be a better leader than Steve Wilson, but maybe that's another story for another show. But anyway, Alan Bigelow joining us in the studio, retired police officer, served this country, and still a firefighter. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call, 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Welcome to Hash House A Go-Go, where we've been serving farm food and crafted cocktails for over 2 decades. Visit us for the full Hash House experience at any of our 5 Las Vegas locations. Hash House A Go-Go is where old school meets new and gets twisted. We bring people together over good food and fun. Come in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and come hungry because our portions are huge. Visit us online to see our entire menu at hashhouseagogo.com. Hash House A Go-Go. It's a Midwest thing, and there's nothing else like it. Welcome to Hash House A Go-Go, where we've been...
Is your dog suffering from a sensitive stomach? Hi, it's Kelly the Cookie Lady from Mooch's Munchies. Our dogs had super sensitive tummies, and I needed to find a low-fat treat that wouldn't give them gas or other issues. Most of the treats on the market were loaded with fillers, chemicals, and chicken fat. Many of them weren't even food. Well, I knew I could do better, so I developed Mooch's Munchies, and I'm happy to be able to share them with you. Stop by our store or our website, moochesmunchies.com, and find out why we say that Mooch's Munchies are totally pawsome.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. On a Thursday, we got Alan Bigelow in studio. Hey, listen, man, COVID's getting around. I know Doug Basham just had a bad stomach virus. If you're not feeling good, check out Sahara West Urgent Care. They're located right down the street from the station, actually. Sahara and Jones. My family's been there. I've been there. Nothing but just great people over there. Andrew and Jessica will take care of you. Give them a call at 702-248-0554. You can also visit them online at SaharaWestUrgentCare.com if you would like to get professional health care and help that you need. $95 copay if you don't have insurance, even though they take most insurances. There are some interesting statements on our YouTube feed. Someone's called me a pedophile, Alan. That's interesting. And others are, going after Hunter Biden. Others are defending Hunter Biden. Always interesting when you look at some of the social media comments.
Well, that's why it's called social media, because everybody comments about something.
That's true. All right, well, why don't we take a few phone calls? I always enjoy taking phone calls. Alan, put that headset on, if you will. I will open up the lines. We've got Alan Bigelow in studio. He's running for Assembly District 5. And we welcome all calls, 702-221-7283. Again, that number, 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you'd like to be a part of the program. Let's start off with JD. Hello, JD. Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Thank you. A couple of questions, if I may. Mr. Bigelow, are you aware of the 5 Democrats who are not running for the Assembly, if one of them is in your district?
I'm very aware. Actually, District 5, I haven't heard that she was not going to run again, but I know 10 and 29 are definitely not running.
So your district, they are running or not? I'm sorry.
They are as of yesterday.
Okay. I wanted to, you were talking about Ukraine in the 80s. It was under Clinton in the 90s that they got rid of their weapons.
Correct.
And regarding Biden under oath, Brian, those 2 IRS guys were under oath when they made the testimony, and the FBI agent too.
Gotcha. So what crimes were committed?
Pardon me?
What crimes were committed? And by the way, when you talk about Hunter Biden and whether it be money, $20 million that the Republicans are saying in the Biden bank accounts, none of the IRS agents were talking about what McCarthy was talking about the other day. When you're talking about those 2 IRS agents, they didn't say anything under oath that would with any evidence that Joe Biden committed any crimes. And isn't that what we're talking about here?
Well, I think what they're doing is laying the groundwork with all the bank transfers, all the 20 offshore corporations, all the nefarious areas that have to be researched and found out to be. And I believe Jared Kushner made a business deal for $2 million, and he
no,
was
sir. He got $2 billion. He made a business deal with the Saudis for $110 billion, an arms deal with the Saudis, and then a couple weeks after Donald Trump was out of office, he received a $2 billion check from the Saudis. I'm just wondering why that doesn't concern you, also.
Well, obviously he's providing a business service. He's not selling air.
So maybe Hunter Biden's providing a business service. Did you ever think about that, or is it just Jared Kushner that's doing it?
What is it other than air?
Okay, so you're saying Jared Kushner, you're just assuming that there was no wrongdoing there with Jared Kushner, that it was just business services, but yet when it comes to Hunter Biden, you don't give him the benefit of the doubt. Do you understand where I'm going at, JD?
Sure, and I'm sure if Kushner has done anything wrong, the Attorney General Garland would be after him like a pack of wild dogs. So obviously he doesn't think there's anything wrong yet.
That's not true.
Otherwise,
they're being investigated. It's going to be under investigation. The Democrats are putting that forth.
Well, I haven't heard that.
Well,
he wasn't Secretary of State. He was an advisor.
Okay, so if you're
Trump,
with all due respect, if you're watching Newsmax or Fox News, I can understand why you haven't heard.
I don't watch Fox News.
Okay, what do you watch to get your news? What do you watch?
I don't watch any news anymore.
So where do you get your information from? Certainly not from this show.
I read a lot.
Well, where do you read it? Where do you read? What? I'm just curious. What media enterprise do you read from? You have to read from somewhere.
I get about 5 different magazines a month, from Newsmax to.
There you go. Okay, so you prove my point for me. If you're getting your news information from Newsmax,
that's one. I get the Week. I get Liberal. I get Mother Jones.
Okay. So
I get Liberal magazines also.
Okay.
So
what Liberal magazine do you get?
Mother Jones, I just told you.
Oh, okay. I never heard of Mother Jones, but okay.
Mother Jones is one of the biggest liberal rags that's been around. And The Atlantic with Jeffrey Goldberg. That's another liberal rag.
So here's the reality.
But anyhow,
here's the reality, right? Hold on 1 second, JD. Stay on the line. And Alan, you can tell me if you agree. Here's the reality of the situation. The Republicans have been investigating the Bidens and Joe Biden for 5 years. They have found no direct evidence to this point that Joe Biden has broken any laws or even done anything wrongdoing. Donald Trump is facing 91 felony counts. Until somebody shows me direct evidence, not what just somebody says that's not under oath, direct evidence that Joe Biden committed a crime, it's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. And you know who suffers, JD? People like you and me. You know why? Because what McCarthy and the MAGA Republicans are doing right now, instead of a message of, hey, how are we going to do to change this or change that or get the economy working again or lower inflation or lower gas prices, they're not talking about that stuff. They're putting all their time and energy into trying to get a gotcha moment where Joe Biden may have been on a phone call with one of Hunter Biden's business partners. And you and I lose. The American people lose.
It's been proven already, and he had.
Where has it been proven?
They have film, and they have
Alan, have you seen? Hold on, let's ask Alan. Alan, have you seen film of Joe Biden with Hunter Biden's business associates? I haven't seen that film. Have you?
At the Cafe Milano in Washington, D.C., having dinner.
Have you seen film of that? I haven't seen film.
I haven't seen the film, but I have heard audio of the having my father sitting beside me.
20 phone calls.
Yeah, and
Mr. Bigelow.
I've heard the tapes on the phone calls. I just haven't seen any video yet.
Yeah.
And Mr. Bigelow, one other thing.
Sure.
You talk about supporting Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
How do $100 bills, Benjamin, support Ukraine? You don't fight a war with $100 bills.
They're not.
It with tanks.
Oh my God! What do you? They're not.
Let me answer. Let me answer.
Let me finish.
Yeah.
You fight it with tanks and jets and artillery.
I agree.
Not with $100 bills.
I agree. Getting the tanks and things over there to get him in a situation where he can win and be done with this and bring some stability.
So where are the $100 bills going?
I haven't heard about $100 bills.
JD, you have with all due respect, you have no idea.
Over $100 billion.
Excuse me, it's my turn now.
Isn't the $100 billion
going to artillery?
And that's what I'm saying.
JD doesn't know what he's talking about.
I've heard. I've heard that there's money being sent. But I don't know that. What I do know is that, there's a bunch of equipment, $100 billion, and it's real easy to stack that up in a real quick. If you send, for example, one tank battalion, all right, and here's just some really quick numbers, and they're ballpark numbers because I did the budget for my unit as the motor sergeant. Each unit, each tank company or tank squadron, however we're calling it each day, is worth over $200 million. So you're sending 6 units in one battalion. So you're talking about at least $1 billion right there off the top, just in equipment and manpower.
Sure.
So if that, can that translate into $100 bills? Yeah, it absolutely does, because you're spending those dollars to spend, for our soldiers' pay. You're spending it on a maintenance equipment. You're spending it on the equipment itself. So there's, the tanks and things. I mean, He needs them to get the job done.
But JD is making the case, and again, with all due respect, when you read Newsmax magazine, they probably phrase it like they're sending $100 bills over there. The money that we are sending, there is for artillery, for weapons,
That's
so they
for
can.
me. That's only me. That's only me.
Okay,
They're
well then
also
only
paying-
you is wrong then, because we're not
they're also
sending
paying-
$100
they're
bills
also-
over there. We're not
They're
doing
also
that.
they're also spending money on pensions.
Okay, listen, JD, we're sending money for artillery. We're sending them artillery so they can defend themselves.
With no accounting.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I
And
know.
nobody-
I know.
Nobody's keeping the books. No
Yeah.
accounting.
What do you mean nobody's keeping books? Where are you getting that
They
from?
admit it. They admitted it last week that they don't know how much money is going where.
So who said on the record that we have no idea what we're sending to Ukraine? Who said that, JD?
The federal GSA, the Treasury. I can't recall. What
You can't
either one of
recall.
those
Did
two.
you read that in Newsmax magazine?
No, I think I read it in in the Atlantic. Actually,
Okay,
with
I
Jeffrey
doubt you
Goldberg,
did.
who-
I doubt you did. It's very important.
Don't call me a
Let me-
don't call me a liar.
Well, I just did.
You know you're very rude, Brian. You call people liars and you don't have no
Hey,
basis
JD.
of fact to do it.
JD,
it's Alan.
You're a liar.
Let me check into that actually, because I'm kind of curious about it now.
What's that, sir?
How they're paying pensions. I'd heard something about it. Let me dig into it, because I really don't know for
Yeah,
sure.
they're paying for a lot of stuff that's not military.
Yeah.
When we have people, veterans in this country that are sleeping on sidewalks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And we're giving it away to illegals
Yeah.
from Mexico
Yeah. Well,
and
that's-
China and Ukraine.
let me just
And that's what I've.
By the way, what they did with the Martha's Vineyards kids, they sent them to a military base on Cape Cod.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're defending it then.
So
You're hold on,
Defending
JD.
what?
You're defending them sending migrants to Martha's Vineyard. You're defending that.
Biden is doing the same thing.
Okay, except no, he's not. No, he's not. Now pot him down. Now I'm going to say something about you. You don't like it when somebody goes after you and calls out your stupidity. You don't like it, and you think I'm rude. Yet you're the same guy who has voted for and would still vote for a guy in a courtroom who is found liable of sexual assault, a liable rapist. But you're okay with supporting somebody like that who calls Mexicans rapists, who goes after POWs and says you don't respect John McCain because he was captured, attacks women based on looks, and is a liable rapist. But you're okay with supporting somebody like that. But God forbid somebody like me on the radio calls somebody like you out for your ignorance and your Newsmax readings, and I'm rude. Bye-bye, JD. Have a nice day. I appreciate you calling in. You're welcome to call back into the show anytime. But if you say something stupid or I think you're a liar, I'm going to call you that. Take it or leave it. Have a nice day. Alan, how are you doing today?
Good. I think a couple of points that he made, was very valid, because a lot of people haven't heard exactly what's going on with the money or how it's being spent, and they don't understand what's going on with the history and everything else. And I appreciate, JD, because, during the 80s and 90s, I was in the service and different bases, different places all the time. And so, yeah, he's correct. It was in the 90s. I misspoke on
You
that.
misspoke there, but he's making
but-
the claim like
but-
so many people make that we're just sending boatloads of $100 bills over there and we're not using it for our children. That's exactly what it's being used
but
for.
we're getting ready to do the same thing to get our political prisoners back. We're sending,
and that's different.
$6 billion
Correct.
for unfreezing and against a terrorist country.
Right.
And we shouldn't be doing that.
And that's a fair
But we
point.
should. We need to get our people back, absolutely. But
There's gotta be other ways, maybe.
Unfreezing assets that
And I
have
agree.
limited, and then they turn around and say, you know what, we're going to spend it how we want to spend it, and it doesn't matter what you say.
Right.
Well, okay, that kind of just defeated the purpose of unfreezing the money.
And I didn't like it when Obama did that. And I'm with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
But as you well know, that's a very different situation than what's going on in the Ukraine right now. Here's
Mm-hmm.
what I don't like. And you're someone who served, and you know this. It's not like we're just sending bundles of cash to try to get a captured person back from terrorists. That's not what we're doing. And that's the way JD lays it out. What we're sending over there has to do with artillery so that they can defend themselves.
Right. And I think that's what a lot of people just don't understand. Is
JD doesn't understand that.
And
that's why I got angry.
Well, I'm happy to explain it, because I understand it. I do, I have researched it. I know how
So you
much,
hear what I'm saying?
Yeah,
What-
I said, $200 million. I was responsible for that. You know,
Right.
in a unit, in a military unit.
Sure.
That was my responsibility. I reported to my commander if something was wrong. It was my butt that got chewed.
Right.
And I walked with a limp for however long it took to heal it up. But you know, just one unit is 200 million plus.
Right.
And with the newer tanks and the newer trucks and the newer everything else, it's probably closer to 350 million.
Oh no, I listen. I don't doubt that. But
so
here's,
when we get into the dollars
Sure.
amounts, it can look very much on the surface that you're sending $100 bills because that's what we're taking out of our pockets.
but and I hear you. But it's not just that. You can hear the frustration in my voice when somebody says immediately he wants to defend Jared Kushner and wants to just make the assumption, well, Jared Kushner, I think he used the term provided services, where any reasonable, non-biased person that's not a clown would tell you the $2 billion he got from the Saudis had to do with the $110 deal that Jared Kushner, who, by the way, had zero experience, put in that position, made with the Saudis. But he wants to defend Jared Kushner and say, well, that was just for services. But then when it comes to Hunter Biden, oh, well, Biden was on this phone call. He was seen at dinner in this restaurant. But $2 billion, Jared Kushner, let's just defend that. Oh, that was for services. That's why I get so angry. Can't we be consistent? That's all.
And that's, you know, and we both know that there's, you know, Hunter Biden was acting as a foreign agent without being registered, thusly. In many situations in that whole deal, and that's where most of it started, was because he didn't register as a foreign agent when he should have. And was his father complicit in protecting him in that? You know what? Probably, because if it, you know, I'm going to protect my kid, and I'm sure the president's going to protect his. But is it the right thing to do? Probably not.
Probably not, but I just want people to be consistent, right? If you want to investigate Hunter Biden, even though I don't think there's any evidence that Joe Biden committed any crimes, fine. But we also have to investigate the Trump family. Let's be consistent.
And we've had investigations going back into Nixon. Nixon, you know, they went through the impeachment trial, and they basically said, look, you need to step out. That's the way it is. You know, we went into the Clintons. The Clintons have still not finished with that investigation. How is it that more than 40 people of their associates are now dead? And it's not because of old age.
Right.
You know, suicides and things like that. That's pretty, on the surface, pretty damning. And without, you know, completing the investigations, you never know.
Well, I don't know. I
think, you know, honestly, in the whole scope of this, let's get all these investigations done. Let's see what sticks and move forward.
Yeah.
You know, if Hunter Biden goes to jail, then he goes to jail. If they impeach the current president, well, they impeach the last one twice. You know what?
The big difference being Hunter Biden's a private citizen. He never worked in the Biden administration, and Donald Trump could be a convicted felon, and there are still many Republicans out there that don't care that would still vote for him. That's the difference.
And so,
would you vote for Donald Trump if he's a convicted felon?
You asked me that already.
I don't remember the answer.
You can't have a convicted felon be the president because he has to have a security clearance, and you can't get a clearance if you're a felon. So that takes care of that even takes it off the plate.
There are some legal scholars that would say that that's a sticky situation, and he might.
Well, I mean, that's why they keep throwing poop against the wall and hoping it sticks.
That's true.
I mean, there's another word to use in there, but yeah,
I think
we're on radio, so I have to be polite.
Thank you. The next year and a half is going to be very interesting.
I think so. You know,
this is a crazy time.
You know, I think a lot of things are going to have to happen. I think candidates are going to have to stay on their own campaigns. Don't get mixed up in all that crazy mess because you don't got time for it. You got your own message to get out. I got my own campaign to run. Whatever happens to Donald Trump happens to Donald Trump. If he is our nominee as a Republican, I will support whoever our nominee is. If it's even if it's DeSantis, if it's Vivek, if it's Vice President, whoever it is, because I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden.
Even if it is somebody like a Donald Trump.
I would rather have mean tweets and people afraid of this nation are not going to sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to go meet with that communist guy next door from China.
But hold on,
and have
it's more than mean tweets. You know that. If it was just mean tweets, it's more than that.
And he could be a rotten guy all the way around, but he did some pretty solid business stuff for us. He brought in business. He reduced our gas prices to unbelievable levels in decades. And I'm not going to go on touting, you know, good and bad in either way. But the reality is this. We can't have Biden again. Kamala's already getting geared up to step up because what's probably going to happen, and this is another prediction, and I could be totally wrong, and if I am, then I am. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to bring Biden in for their nomination. He's going to have an illness and say, you know what? I can't do it. I'm going to step out. She's going to become president. And then they're going to pick somebody for her vice president out of the cesspool that is. And then they're going to put somebody else in as their nominee because they don't want to keep Kamala in because she's going to be a complete waste of time as a president.
Okay, listen,
but
I don't
it's going
like
to be
the vice
one of those.
president either. I agree with you, but
and so that's where
I think
how
Biden,
that's going to roll into the election.
I think Biden could run on his record. Inflation was 9%. It's now down to 3.5%. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years. Prices have been going down consistently. I think Biden can run on his record and look at the things he's accomplished, whether it be gun legislation, bipartisan, the infrastructure bill, helping brave men and women in uniform with health care. I think Biden can run on his record. Is he the perfect president? No. Donald Trump's handling of COVID was a disaster. And to me, it's more than just
they
tweets.
both of them relied on Fauci, and Fauci's been back and forth on everything. Every other sentence is, well, this works. No, it doesn't work. Well, next week, yeah, it does work. Well, last week, and so Fauci's credibility is zero.
Well, who hired him?
Well, and that's the other question.
Well, not a question. Donald Trump is the one who hired him.
I didn't remember who hired him.
Donald Trump hired him.
Okay.
Whose fault is that?
Oh, that's Donald Trump's then.
I thought he only hired the best people. What happened?
Well, he got rid of most of his staff in the first 90 days and rehired a whole new crew.
And then a lot of people around him are now convicted felons. So I don't know, man. I just think that there are a lot of people that said Trump would never leave office. They were right. He refused, basically. He continues to lie about the 2020 election to this day. I think that's a threat to democracy. I think January 6th was an embarrassment to the country. I don't believe he cares about anybody else but himself. If he's reelected, which I don't believe he will, it's going to be retribution. He said it himself. He's just going to go after everybody. Well, I mean, that's dictatorship. That's a dictatorship. That doesn't bother you?
Yeah, a little bit. I think he's going to come after the people who went after him. If that's the case, he's going to continue to drain the swamp, and he's going to scare the heck out of everybody.
But what do you mean continue to drain the swamp? He never did drain the swamp.
But look at the things that have come out, though. I mean, you've seen multiple situations where people were.
Somebody's telling you to get off that Shapiro show.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah. That's my team making sure where I'm at because I'm supposed to be somewhere else in about 20 minutes.
Okay, I got to get you out of here.
Yeah, but the thing is, really, for more, there's a whole lot more we can talk about. But tonight, we're having a kickoff event.
Let me do that. We have a couple minutes left.
Yes.
Always a good spirited debate with you. But
there's nothing wrong with the spirited debate. I think it gets a lot of things done and a lot of things get cleared up.
I agree, as long as, and you don't do this, but there are people that sometimes call into the show that have no idea what they're talking about. And they say things that aren't true. And that's
Brian, are you kidding me? They call you names.
Can you believe that? Yeah.
No.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Little Brian, he could maybe Trump could make fun of my little hands. I don't know.
I don't know. You're kind of shaking. All
right, so you got this.
I think JD got you.
No, it's just
I'm
people.
kidding.
People like that.
I think, and I'm going to defend JD because a lot of things it's just people don't get all the information they need to know, and it's our own fault because we don't tell them.
Well, I try to, but when you're reading Newsmax magazine and that's where you get your information from, I think that's probably why JD hasn't heard of, doesn't know the dealings of Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, because they don't talk about that, and they talk about Hunter Biden's laptop and Hunter Biden's genitalia, which I'm sure JD is obsessed with. But anyway, hey, Alan, I know you got a great event tonight. I want to give you the opportunity to talk about that and how people could come out and support you. I always appreciate it when you come in. And, I have the utmost respect for you, and trust me, I'd vote for you over a lot of other people. So
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're a good man. So tell me a little bit about this event tonight and how
we're going to be over in Boca Park at the Chinglish Cantonese Wine Bar.
Boca
Great
Park's
place.
awesome, by the way.
I love this place. Yeah. So the owners are Kitty and Ken. They fought through COVID. They kept their people employed. They went as far as going to pick up their employees to get them to work because the buses weren't running, so they could keep their restaurant operating. And I have mad respect for these guys. So tonight at 6:00, we're going to be kicking off the official campaign kickoff event for the 2024 political season, and we are going to. There'll be some surprises. We got a couple of surprise announcements. We'll have some VIPs that show up, and we're going to just really have a good time. And so the first 20 people that show up, I'm buying a drink.
How about that?
Yeah, right. And
drinks on Bigelow. I like that.
Drinks on Bigelow. The first 20 get their first drink free. So come on down. We got some snacks and stuff to hang out, ask questions. I'll talk a little bit, and just have a great night.
I want as many people as possible to come out there support you. You certainly deserve it. You want to take one more quick call, then I got to get you out of here.
Go ahead.
Lauren, I got about a minute for you, my friend. Go right ahead. You're on with Alan Bigelow.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to point out that, yes, we have sent money to Ukraine for pensions and to take care of humanitarian aid over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get that from any of the sites that you quoted. I actually got it from the AP. And I actually sent you on when you had the guy from Occupy Democrats on, not this just the other day, but the week before, the actual article itself through Facebook on the feed that you have on Facebook. But the bottom line is, I really think a lot of times, Brian, and I don't mean this to come out like it's personal. You really don't have a dog in any of these fights.
What are you talking about?
You make a comment about.
I don't have a dog in any of these fights. What do you mean?
Okay.
I'm an American just like you. I vote just like you vote. What are you talking about?
Granted, you're an American.
Okay, so I do have a dog.
I'm saying things that directly affect you.
So you don't think the war in the Ukraine directs me?
No, I was primarily. I was trying to. Well, I'm just trying to say the issue with children. You were upset about children being shipped.
Yeah, I don't think I have to have a child to be upset about that.
My point is this: as you know, I have 8 children.
Okay.
I have grandchildren. I have children that are in the school system.
I understand
that are directly affected.
You just said I don't have a dog in the fight. What does that mean?
I'm trying to answer your question.
Well, you don't have to give me your whole family background. I just want to know why you would make a statement like that.
Because a lot of times you're pointing out that well, what did you watch it at?
Well, yeah, if you get your information,
I haven't watched Fox News in decades.
Okay,
the last time I watched Fox News, Hannity and Combs.
Okay, what do you mean by I don't have a dog in the fight? I'm an American taxpayer just like you. So because I don't have children, I can't. So because I don't have children. So because I don't have children.
When it comes to the cost of food,
what are you talking about? I buy food just like you. What are you talking about? You haven't made any sense. That's an insulting statement you made to start the call.
I've actually made a lot of sense.
So because I don't have kids, I don't have a dog in the fight. That makes a lot of sense, Lauren. That you're making.
You make comments about something you have nothing to do. You don't have children.
So what? Does that mean I don't have an opinion on Ukraine?
That's like me trying to tell you how to run a radio show.
What are you talking about? Just because I don't have kids doesn't mean I can't call out somebody who mistreats children or.
Well, I mean, frankly, I don't think that they were mistreated. If they were mistreated, they were mistreated by the family.
So because I don't have kids, I don't have a right to have an opinion on any child that's mistreated. That makes a lot of sense.
As a result, the New York mayor has come to find out that it's not an easy task.
I just want to be clear. Hold on. Because I got to go and I got to I just want to backtrack and be clear. Brian Shapiro I'm talking to third person. Brian Shapiro doesn't have kids. So because of that, Brian Shapiro cannot call out adults that mistreat children. Lauren, thank you so much for the call. That's a wonderful point. That makes complete sense. Oh my goodness. Okay. So if a child gets raped, Brian can't go on the air and attack the rapist because I don't have, quote, a dog in the fight. Lauren, I appreciate you calling in, my man, but you make absolutely no sense today. Anyway, a guy that does make some sense, and we get into good conversations. Alan Bigelow joining us. Alan, I do appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having
Sometimes these
me.
callers get me red in the face.
That's all right. Come on down tonight to Chinglish. Everybody's welcome. 6 o'clock, and have some great food and enjoy some great conversations. And you get to ask me anything you want to ask me. I'll answer any question.
Even if some people show up and don't have a dog in the fight.
Well, you know what? I got a dog that does my dog does endorsements. And so there you go.
Look at this, huh? I got a signed Alan Bigelow political sign. It's going to be staying here in the studio. It's not going to leave, Alan. And I always appreciate you being here. And it's always a good conversation. And I know you got to run, my friend.
Yes,
I appreciate you coming on. My goal is when people call in, they ask you questions and not try to poke the bear.
Okay, like I said, tonight's a great night to come and ask.
Yes.
And it'll be one-on-one, and I'll be like 5
appreciate
feet
it.
from everybody so they can see
Good.
everything and hear everything. And
let me know how it goes.
And we'll even have a microphone so they can hear inside the restaurant.
I love it.
So
let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
I wish you the best of luck
Thank
and
you.
look forward to having you in again soon. Okay, Alan,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. That's Alan Bigelow, everybody. Attorney Tim Treffinger is going to be joining us next. We're going to talk a little bit about the tripe indictments. Be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits on KSHP.
The Offerman Report, weeknights at 9 on KSHP, North Las Vegas, AM and FM, K2968B, North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call, 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554. All right, welcome back. Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Callers getting me all riled up, ladies and gentlemen. What's new? I want to tell you guys about my good friends over at Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great promotions, including every Wednesday. You earn enough points, you get to spin a wheel to win up to $3,000, up to 4 times. How cool is that? Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great food, great atmosphere, great place to watch the games. And also have some great promotions there on Sundays for Sunday football. Boy, we got a lot of great football games over the weekend. I also have a great attorney in studio right now. But I've learned that attorney Tim Treffinger also doesn't have kids. So apparently, Tim, you don't have a dog in the fight either. Is that?
I guess not. But when I worked for the AG, I was prosecuting child abuse cases for 3 counties. So.
But you don't have kids. You shouldn't be doing that, according to this caller. Yeah.
Apparently.
You don't have a dog in the fight.
Right. Well.
And apparently, if you don't have kids, you don't have to buy food either, according to Lauren, our last caller. Anyway, Tim, I don't know what it is about this show. Sometimes it brings out some of the. All right, I'll just move on. That's not why I have you in here, to be my therapist. But anyway, Tim's a good friend, and he's a great attorney. I know he ran against Steve Wolfson, and I've said it publicly, and I'll say it again. He's one of the 8 Republicans I did vote for in the 2022 midterms. And, Alan Bigelow was just in the studio. He's also a friend and a good man. And, it gets me so frustrated when people think, Brian, you're a libtard, or you're this, you're that. And, I vote for Republicans all the time. There's not many that I would vote for, the big national Republicans. But,
sure.
But anyway, thank you so much for being here, Tim. I wanted to get your thoughts, of course, on Donald Trump and his legal woes. Let me ask you this to start before I get to Donald Trump.
Sure.
Hunter Biden was just indicted today, special counsel. They're investigating Joe Biden. Is there anything that you think there's a there when it comes to Hunter Biden?
It's hard to say. I mean, what they indicted him for today, as far as the gun law,
yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. If you lied that you were using drugs, if you lie on anything on that form, you're into some deep trouble, because they do track those. People didn't realize that even back in the day when you would get a delay on a firearm sale, sometimes they'd give over the gun, and ATF would go get that gun from you after the fact. They have been tracking that. They've always been tracking that. As far as anything that I don't think the gun case has anything to do with the president, regardless of optics wise. Does it look great? No. Obviously, you don't want to see that stuff happening in and around the White House, but it's not directly impacting his position.
So if somebody said to you, Tim, that there are a lot of legal scholars out there that say people usually don't get indicted for something like this in regards to Hunter Biden, what would be your response to that?
I don't know what the statistics are on that, to be honest with you. I'd be surprised if it isn't a common thing, because I know we have a whole agency that just looks into alcohol, tobacco, firearms, explosives. That's ATF. So I would be shocked if it wasn't a more common thing. I don't know why it's happening right now, but there's a lot of stuff happening right now with indictments that the timing seems a little suspicious. And I say that about Donald Trump's indictments, and I'll say that about Hunter Biden's indictment as well. I think the timing of all this right before the election does raise some red flags on both sides.
All right, let's go through the Donald Trump indictments, and what I think is the most serious one. And you could tell me if you think I'm wrong, is the Georgia indictment. I think the Jack Smith indictment is very serious as well. I think the weakest is probably the Stormy Daniels indictment in New York with Bragg.
Yep.
Would you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree. I think the New York one is the weakest. And I think I've talked about that previously on your show. I think when you're trying to use a state court to prosecute a federal election crime, when the feds decline to pick it up, and the only reason you're doing that, it looks like, is to extend your statute of limitations, I think that's not appropriate. Now, it doesn't mean he may or may not have done something wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But if you beat the statute of limitations, the way our system works is you should have some comfort in knowing you're not going to be prosecuted at that point.
Do you believe that the Georgia indictment is the most serious, or would you go with Jack Smith?
I think those two are probably his most serious issue. I'm not sure I could put one in front of the other.
Okay.
I mean, on one you have... Obviously, there were phone calls made to Secretary of State trying to overturn the election results. There are some troubling quotes out of there. The "find me enough votes just to flip the result."
Is that a crime?
That's the question, isn't it? And I guess we're going to find out when that goes to a jury. I mean, to be frank, people request things of politicians all the time that are not what I would call legal, or I would say are in violation of their oath. Where do we draw the line of where does that become a crime? I guess if you're insisting on it, if you're offering something in exchange, I haven't seen that part of it. But then again, we only see bits and pieces of what the media and the government wants us to see. So I guess that's a tough question to answer.
If you're just joining us, attorney Tim Treffinger getting his thoughts on the 4 Donald Trump indictments, talking a little Hunter Biden as well. To me, when people make the claim, and I say people, I say MAGA Donald Trump supporters, and including Donald Trump, who claims, I have a right to contest an election. I have a right to say that the Democrats stole it. I think what a lot of people don't understand is that's not why he was indicted. We're talking about a alleged fake electorate scheme, right? You can say that I believe the election was stolen, You can make claims and lie, which I believe he's doing. That's not necessarily a crime. But that's not what he was indicted for, right?
Right. There, and that the one you're referencing, I think there was 42, 45 people.
Correct.
I know some of those people have been severed out into separate cases, but it is all part and parcel of the same thing. I think that a couple people were allowed out of that case this morning. That one is concerning for that reason. If it was just things that were being said,
right?
We have the First Amendment. You're allowed to have your opinion. We're all entitled to our opinion, even if we're wrong. But at the point where you have allegations of fake electorate, and I know I've seen there were some issues here in Nevada where they had other certified electorates that were not part of the actual certified electorate. That does cause me some concern. Again, it's all about how a jury sees this. Does a jury believe that, because jury nullification is a thing. And for those that don't know what that is, basically you're not allowed to argue for it, but if juries feel that someone shouldn't be found guilty of a crime for whatever reason, even if the prosecutor has met the elements, they can give forth a not guilty verdict. It's not something we can argue for, but it is a phenomenon that happens. And it's really going to depend on who you have on that jury and how the evidence is presented. But I'm somewhere in between. I haven't seen enough to think that they can really get over or beyond a reasonable doubt on that case yet.
Which case are you're referring to? The Georgia case?
The Georgia case.
Gotcha. In the Jack Smith case, of course, this is a guy who's also prosecuted Democrats. He's been around for a while. I would like to think that he has quite a bit of credibility. I mean, he prosecuted Edwards and other Democrats. Why did Donald Trump defy a subpoena? That's what I want to know. And now they just decided in court the other day that he cannot have access to any of these records, at least now, in the pending case. What do you make of this Jack Smith case?
The Jack Smith case is interesting. I mean, anytime you're dealing with classified documents and things that have not been declassified, I mean, that's a serious national security concern for anybody. And I know there were some rumblings that there was something with Biden and classified documents being where they weren't supposed to be, but he's not the one in a case, so we're not measuring the stick that way. I don't know. I don't know why he would defy a subpoena, but then again, in my line of work, people defy subpoenas every day, all the time. People defy congressional subpoenas. It's happened even recently. That case, it's funny when you say people being indicted for things like on the gun issue we were talking about. I've never seen anybody else actually indicted for having classified documents outside of government areas or where they were supposed to be. Yet I know it has happened previously. There's been news stories about it. So that one, again, I think it's going to depend on how the jury sees it. If the jury sees it as he had some documents, but no harm, no foul, I could see a jury finding him not guilty on that case, even if he violated the letter of the law, because that is something that happens in our court system.
So out of the 91 felony counts that Donald Trump is facing right now, if you're a betting man and somebody had to ask you in 2 years from now, will Donald Trump be a convicted felon? What would you say?
I'd say it's a coin flip.
Really?
And I'll tell you
close.
why.
Yeah.
You can have an indictment with 100 counts on it, and some juries, and this happens all across the country, they will either convict on everything and just because they see some evidence on a few of the charges, or they may acquit on everything because they don't see enough on certain charges and they think it's a witch hunt. So this, as far as I'm concerned, and I've done numerous jury trials, both civil and criminal, you never know what a jury is going to do. And if some jury, let's say they don't get convictions on the first case, that's going to cause more doubt going down the road. There's no way to avoid juries hearing about what's going on in other cases. This idea that we have juries that don't watch the news and don't read things when they're told not to, it isn't the case.
Well, tell me if you disagree with this. The reason why I say yes, I do believe so. Particularly in the Georgia case, you have 18 co-conspirators. I have no doubt in my mind that some of those co-conspirators are going to be testifying and cooperating and against the former president of the United States. And if and when that happens, I personally believe Donald Trump's going to be in a lot of trouble.
That is going to cause some problems. Now knowing that, though, you're going to know in advance who's testifying. There's no smoking gun. It's not like Matlock, where they all of a sudden this aha moment in the courtroom comes up. I think it becomes more likely that he tries to negotiate cases at the point where you have co-conspirators turning on each other. And I mean, it's when you have 18, I've had cases when you have 2, and they almost always flip on the other person. I mean,
really?
There's no honor amongst thieves when it comes to that. When you know you're going away.
So Meadows and Giuliani could be going at each other. Boy, that could be entertaining. Do you think Meadows has already flipped?
I don't, because I don't think that no one's good at keeping secrets anymore. If you've noticed in this government, that'd be a major news story. They would be touting that.
Because that's been I guess a rumor, right?
Well, the rumor's going around, but I mean, until there's a signed proffer agreement or an agreement to testify in exchange for something else, it's all smoke until there's actually some fire there.
Well, I will say this. I do think that there will be some convictions, particularly in the Georgia case, maybe in the Jack Smith case as well. If, in fact, there are no convictions here, it's going to make everybody look really, really bad. It's going to be very, very bad. And I'm not saying this is great for the country if Donald Trump is a convicted felon either, because this whole thing is not good. There are no winners here, right? Obviously, you want someone held to the highest extent of the law, whether you're the former president of the United States or somebody like you or me, right? You want people held to a standard. But you put all this money into this and you put all these resources in this, and if you don't get a conviction and all it takes is one juror that's a MAGA, let's just call this for what it is. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, right? That's sometimes a very difficult thing to do in a courtroom. You know that best. All you have to get is one secret MAGA Republican, just like the O.J. Simpson case. Get one or two people that are O.J. Simpson fans, football fans of his. That's all it takes here, right? And I know it's the prosecutor's job to find the right jurors that are not MAGA Republicans, but this is difficult. It's not an open, closed, shut case, right? This is tough.
That's true. And jury selection is an art on both sides because jury selection itself can take multiple days. In a case like this, it would probably take a week or two, to be honest with you, which is why I find it interesting how all these cases are stacked. I think there's 2 cases supposed to be tried in March. I don't know how they would pull that off. But jury selection is an art. It's much harder on the prosecutor than on the defense attorney because as a defense attorney, I need one. That's all I need. We have unanimous verdicts here. In the UK and other places, if you saw the Kevin Spacey case, I think it was 10
Not
to 2.
guilty, but his career has been tarnished forever.
True, but it was a 10-2. There were 2 people who wanted to convict him, but that's how their system works. We require unanimity in our juries. And yeah, you're going to have trouble. There are going to be people who want to be on this jury to cause chaos in the process, and it's hard to weed those people out because jury questionnaires don't always do that.
Do you believe that Donald Trump is going to put his foot in his mouth and continue to maybe get in trouble with some of these judges for continuing to make statements? Like, for example, when you make a statement, let me ask you this, Tim. When you make a statement about Jack Smith and the DOJ and you say, if you come after me, I'm coming after you, do you see that as a threat? Is he breaking the law by doing that?
That's probably not definite enough to be a threat. And I'm careful when I answer questions about this because in modern culture, what is considered violent language or a call to action is kind of getting muddied depending on the subject you're talking about. I'm not sure that goes far enough. He could be meaning I'm going to come after you, I'm going to sue you for malicious prosecution or a variety of other things. It's a little too vague. I don't know that should he be doing it? Would I be telling my client to knock that off? Absolutely. But I don't think anybody can tell Donald Trump not to do something, and he's actually going to listen to that. That's been part of his charm, for lack of a better word, throughout his time in office.
I mean, Tim, you've had a nice career as an attorney, and you've been doing this for a while now. When you hear somebody say that we have a 2-tiered justice system, number one, do you believe that? And what goes through your mind when you hear people say that?
Based on some of the things I've seen here in Clark County, some people do get treated differently. I don't know if there's 2 tiers or 10 or 100. But that was part of what I ran on, is you look at the situation with some of the NFL players and how they were treated here in Vegas, and it's hard to argue that there isn't a 2-tiered system. That was one of the things I was fighting to get rid of, and equality for everybody. Laws should not matter what your background is, if you're an NFL star or if you're a homeless guy on the street.
Sure.
Laws apply to everybody.
I agree. I've seen it firsthand myself. I wouldn't call it a 2-tier justice system, but I think that sometimes people are politically motivated to go after people. I don't think there's any question about that. But I look at a guy like Jack Smith, a guy that's been around for a while, a guy that has prosecuted Democrats. So when I hear Donald Trump or a MAGA supporter go after Jack Smith and say Jack Smith is going after Trump because he's, got Trump derangement syndrome, or he's going after Republicans, that is blatant nonsense. I have no doubt that Bragg in New York City, that case is politically motivated. Could Donald Trump have committed a crime when it came to... It's possible, but I have no doubt that case is politically motivated. It's a weak case. It's politically motivated. But when I think of a guy like Jack Smith, I'm like, this guy's been around a long time. He's a pretty respected guy. He's a Republican, by the way, and he's gone after Democrats and prosecuted Democrats. I don't think it's always the case. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. When a politician is indicted, and at least when it comes to the Jack Smith case, I think he's crossed his T's, dotted his I's, and I don't believe that's politically motivated. That case. That's my personal opinion.
And I agree with you. I haven't seen anything that makes me think that Jack Smith is doing this politically motivated. I mean, and you draw a great correlation. You have Alvin Bragg, who ran on prosecuting somebody, which I think is completely inappropriate. You can make generalities and say, I'm going to get rid of corruption in the government. But if you say, elect me and I'm going to prosecute Trump, that's a problem. Prosecutors are supposed to prosecute without bias or prejudice or any of that sort of thing.
Right.
I see more of that model out of Jack Smith. But, I mean, it's hard to say what's politically motivated and what's not anymore. I don't know what has flipped his opinion on it. I haven't seen him make any prior statements that he's contradicted. So for right now, until I see something that makes me think he's dirty, it seems like an okay prosecution to me. That doesn't mean he's going to get a conviction. He's just doing his job. He's doing what he was paid to do.
Right, exactly. And, we're going to have to, again, innocent until proven guilty. Donald Trump is going to have his day in court. He's going to have the opportunity to defend himself. Here's what I want to do, Tim. I want to take a quick break. And when I come back, I want to get your thoughts on the word incitement. We hear it all the time. I'm one of those people personally that believes Donald Trump incited January 6th, but I want to get your legal expertise on what it means to incite a riot, incite what took place on January 6th, and is Donald Trump not feelings responsible, but actually legally, personally responsible for some of the things that took place on January 6th. He is Tim Treffinger. He's been around for a long time as an attorney, ran against Steve Wolfson, and I believe there's a chance he might be running again. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that when we come back as well. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Freeway Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you could be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call, 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Zen World Premium CBD offers full and broad spectrum CBD oil, extracts, and capsules which are designed to help you feel your best. Their products are sourced from the best organic hemp and natural ingredients on the market and are tested for quality, purity, and potency. They have a full range of items from health and wellness to beauty to pets. Call 725-205-9223. Visit online at zenworld.com or stop by their location at 9895 South Maryland Parkway and Silverado Range Parkway. Mention KSHP for 10% off in store or use code KSHP online for 15% off.
Locally owned and operated, come on down to Academy of Hair Design located at 5191 West Charleston Boulevard, number 150 today to begin your career in cosmetology. There is something for everyone from cosmetology to nail technology. You will be able to have the hands-on training that is needed to succeed in this career field. Call 702-878-1185 or visit www.ahdvegas.com today.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, I want to tell you about my good friend Blake Wynn with Keller Williams Group. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, Blake is the best. His grandfather, of course, the former governor of the great state of Nevada. And Blake took care of my family. I promise you he'll take care of you. He's got a great charity poker tournament coming up later on this month. We'll have him back in talking a little bit about that. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, Blake is the guy. 702-540-3311 is his personal number. Again, write this one down. Even if you're just thinking of buying or selling a home, call Blake at 702-540-3311. We've got a very highly skilled attorney in studio, of course, Tim Treffinger, wealth of experience in both prosecuting and a defense as well. Earned his degree from University of New Hampshire back in 2012, and he has lived and practiced law in the great state of Nevada since then. Tim, happy to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, appreciate you being here. So, we hear a lot of, people like myself, I'll be honest, that have said, Donald Trump incited January 6th. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, for months leading up to January 6th, if he didn't lie about the election and said the election was stolen, which it wasn't, and say Joe Biden cheated, which he didn't, January 6th doesn't happen. You know, he says, we got to fight like hell. I'm going to meet you down at the Capitol, which he never did. And all those people that have been prosecuted, and there's like over 1,000 of them, and I think almost half of them are in jail right now.
I believe so.
Most of them had their day in court, and most of them, well, all of them had their day in court, and most of them said on the record that my leader was Donald Trump, and I was doing what Donald Trump wanted me to do. A lot of them have said that, and they blamed Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Do you believe legally, not personal feelings, those aside, that Donald Trump at some level is legally responsible for what took place on January 6th?
I'm going to have to give you another lawyer answer. I feel like I'm giving you a lot of lawyer answers today. It's a perception issue. The things leading up, again, like we talked about earlier, he can say, the election was stolen from me, I was cheated. Those are opinions. The incitement is where you run into some issues legally. And again, he could be convicted, but I think it's an uphill battle just because of, we have to be careful what we're going to be willing to indict and convict people for speech-wise. And you see this happen in other countries where it's a slippery slope. If you're implying something, are you actively saying it? And I know he did say, march down to the Capitol, we're going to fight like hell. And this is kind of a similar situation. What does that mean? Are we fighting because we're raising our voices and protesting and against what we perceive as a slight and a problem with our election process? Or do we believe what he meant was march through the doors and cause chaos, which is what happened? But the incitement happens before, not after. So we can't look at the result and say that because the riot happened, it was incited. it has to be reasonable that what he said would cause the outcome. And I think you're going to have arguments on the one side that say, he told him to march down to the Capitol. He didn't go down there, and they went in, and he didn't do anything to stop it after the fact. So this is obviously what he wanted, and that is an argument that I think we presented to a jury. You're going to have people who say he was trying to show the show of force he was looking for was an act of protest, and not what he wanted was people breaking in and people getting hurt and people getting killed, which is what happened. So again, I think that one could cause him some serious issues. I think that is very much a coin flip issue, and it's going to very much depend on who's on that jury.
And, people died that day.
Yeah.
Over 140 officers were injured. Embarrassing day for the country. And what I always, not even from the legal perspective, right, but what I always tell people is personal responsibility. Let's forget about just the legalities of it for a moment. And I agree with everything you just said. If Donald Trump didn't say he won the election in a landslide and Joe Biden cheated, let's be honest, January 6th doesn't happen.
That's true, but you have to separate that out.
Right.
Because we're okay with him saying that because we have First Amendment rights in this country. We can only look at what immediately preceded and what he said as far as people going down to the Capitol, which he did say some things that I think some jurors would find him guilty of that.
Sure.
It's the question of how far do we want to stretch the term incitement? Because we have people, I mean, there have been political candidates accused of saying they wanted to have their opponent hung by a crane. Is that incitement?
Sigel Chada. Yeah.
Is there, if someone just says, screw this, it's that my issue is with the specificity of it, because what I don't want is for free speech to be hindered. I want to make sure that we don't run into some issues that other countries are doing where, I mean, misgendering someone accidentally in some countries now can lead you to be arrested.
Which is absurd, but when you hear people say you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, what does that really mean?
I think that one's very specific. You're in a movie theater, you yell fire, there's going to be trampling, there's going to be chaos, people are going to get hurt. You could argue him saying march down to the Capitol, we're going to fight like hell. He could foresee that his more resolute supporters are going to take that as go attack the Capitol. We're going to stop this from getting certified.
But Tim, if I'm a prosecutor, I talk about his behavior while January 6th was happening and after. For 5 hours, people testified under oath in the January 6th commission that he was just sitting there watching TV in a room for 4 or 5 hours, literally doing nothing. For 4 or 5 hours, he refused to put even a video out saying, stop the violence.
Sure.
And even some people testified that he enjoyed it. He enjoyed it when people were chanting out, hang Mike Pence. So I also look at his behavior while everything was going on and afterwards. Most of Washington thought what was going on was reprehensible. Sure. And they were begging Donald Trump to put out a video, and he didn't do so for hours. So I think that's also part of where a prosecutor could say, look at his behavior when it was going on and after it happened.
And I agree with you, because that puts his actions, that puts what he says in context. We can't look at the riot itself. The riot is what it is, and that's just because you get there doesn't mean it was incited. However, someone could make the argument, and as you just did, yeah, obviously he wanted this. If you're going to have people walking into court saying he was enjoying himself, if you have people walking into court saying, he was for what was happening, that does put his words in context, and that you can look at, and that is relevant to the prosecution.
And then he puts out a video finally hours after the mayhem. And in that video, while he says go home, he also says we love you. And he knew that officers were injured and people were dead, and yet he still puts out a video being nice to some of these people. And I just, to me, his behavior afterwards, reprehensible, and
I'd say bizarre and reprehensible. And yeah, that, again, I'm sure in his mind, he was thanking the people who would die for him, his supporters, his diehard supporters. Is it in bad taste? Yes. Does it put his words in context? Possibly. I think those things could cause him serious issues.
What do you say to the people out there that are saying those that were convicted of serious crimes on January 6th have been mistreated? A lot of people like the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world defending them, saying that it was no more than a tourist visit. You've heard the comments from a lot of these people that are saying these people have been mistreated and treated unfairly in our justice system.
If you break a law and you get prosecuted for it, and you take a deal or you're convicted, that is what it is. That's how our system works. Regardless of, if I tell you to go rob a bank right now, and you go do it, and you give me half the money, I guess I'm on the hook for that too at that point. But just because I told you to do it doesn't absolve you of it. So if that's a tough road to hoe. That's not an argument that I've ever seen be successful in criminal court of he made me do it, barring them having a family member at gunpoint or something else. I mean, they can say they got caught up in the moment. I know that was one of the, I think the leader of the Proud Boys, when he was sentenced, said he got caught up in the
Tario,
crowd.
he got 22 years, right?
He did get 22 years. Yeah. And that's a long sentence. I don't know what his background is or if he had any prior arrests or what else led into that decision. That's a long sentence. Even in the federal system, that's a long sentence. And I think it was at the top end of the guidelines as well.
It was. Yeah.
But
they asked for 36 years, believe it or not.
Well,
that's what they asked for.
I could say this as a former prosecutor, you always ask for more than you expect to get because you expect the judge to what they say split the baby. Mm-hmm. It's going to come somewhere in between what the defense and what the prosecution asks, unless it's a real egregious case. I mean, you saw what happened. His name's escaping me. The DUI that ended up with the car crash.
Henry Ruggs.
Ruggs. You saw a judge who wasn't entertaining any leniency, and sometimes if it's egregious enough, and we've talked about that case before, that case was egregious, you are going to see massive sentences.
But you've heard the excuses even from some of these defendants, and some of those saying, well, wait a second, the guards let me in the building. I didn't know I was doing anything wrong. I didn't hurt anybody. I was being a patriot. You know, you've heard the statements. And then you have some of these defendants that have owned what they have done, like these Proud Boy members who sort of have, and they've cried and pleaded with the judge.
Right. And again, I don't think laying it at the feet of patriotism, I don't think is a winning argument.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever counsel a client, especially in a criminal defense case, to say I broke the law of our nation and gave a black eye to the nation in a lot of ways. Because no matter how you view it, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, that's a bad day.
Sure. Absolutely. So, Tim, I want to bring this. I don't know if you're familiar with this case, but this guy Masterson from that 70s show who
I'm familiar.
Okay, good. So this is kind of a pop culture story, and it's a horrible story of two women that were raped. I have no doubt Masterson's a convicted rapist. Okay, so he gets convicted. He's not sentenced yet. Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis have known him very well for a long time, especially Ashton Kutcher, who was on that show, who's known him for decades.
Sure.
Masterson's family asked Ashton Kutcher and Kunis to write a character letter to the judge, which is not unusual. That happens all the time in this country, right? Now, at the time, Kutcher and Kunis knew that he was a convicted rapist. Yet they still wrote this letter, and they're taking a lot of flack for it. Can you just talk to people about how this is, I would assume, a regular thing? And do you believe that Kutcher and Kunis deserve some of the flack that they've been receiving?
When you're a public figure, you're always going to get flack. I mean, even at the low levels of the game where I was at, I got flack that's just what happens when you're a public figure. But this is the most normal thing. Part of what you do as a defense attorney once a conviction comes down is now you're in what's called mitigation. What can I do to mitigate how much time my client is going to get? What can I do to paint the best possible picture at sentencing? And from what I've seen of those letters, they're talking about, they were trying to bring out the Masterson that they knew, because people have this black and white. You're a criminal or you're not. But some people are a criminal for 10 minutes. Look at the man who kills his wife in a fit of passion. That's the only crime he's ever committed in his life. Horrible incident. And he's a horrible human being for those minutes when he kills his wife. However, if he's 50 years old, he probably had 49 and a half years where he was not doing those things.
Right.
And we try to bring out we have to humanize a defendant even when their crimes are egregious. You have to find ways to mitigate and show that this was a mistake. This was not how this person is. Now, don't get me wrong. If Masterson had been convicted of 15, 20, 30 of these, and there's all these allegations going back over time that they're aware of, it's harder to paint that picture. What they're saying is, here's the Danny Masterson I knew. I'm not going to comment on the case he's in right now. I just want you, the judge, to know the man that I knew. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the defense's job. They have to paint these pictures. Could they have declined? Yes. I'm sure their agents would have preferred it had they declined, but they were trying to help out someone who they've known for years. And even though he's been convicted of a terrible thing, and I'm not going to mince words. I used to prosecute sex cases. I have no love for sex offenses or sex offenders. This is something I would do were I the lawyer in that case. I would be reaching out to them to get those letters.
But why do they have to be public? Why can't they remain? Why does the judge allow them to be public?
Because we have a public justice system. So everything that goes in front of the judge is supposed to be part of the court record. So at a criminal sentencing, especially when you may have appeals or other things, that's all part of the public record. The victim gets their chance to come into court and say their piece and talk about how it impacted their life. And then you have character letters on the other side. Usually those people don't come in person.
Then there's the moral side of it, and maybe you'll disagree with me on this, and this isn't the legal side of it. I'm not saying Ashton Kutcher or Kunis did anything legally wrong, but I'm just going from my own self as my opinion. Let's just say I know somebody almost my whole life, maybe 30 years I've worked with them, always considered them a good friend, always treated me well. And I find out that they're convicted of rape. Convicted. And that person's family member reaches out to me and say, hey, can you give me a character letter? I say, no, I don't want to help this person. They're a convicted rapist. I mean, I don't know. Am I wrong? That's just the way I think. I don't want to help somebody no matter how close they are to me if they committed sexual assault, rape, which to me is one of the most vile things you could do in society. And even if they treated me good, I don't want to help that. I don't want to help a rapist. That's just me.
And I think morally, there's nothing wrong with having that position. If I was asked, if I was in their shoes, would I have written that letter? No. But I don't know that we can persecute them for doing what's a normal part of a court process that is part of thousands of cases that happen every year. And the last thing I would want to do is say, we're not going to take character letters because they are helpful in certain cases.
Didn't help this time.
This case, not so much. I think the behavior that he was accused of is abhorrent, and I think that the sentence he got is absolutely deserved.
This is hard, though, Tim. How did they prosecute this guy when this happened allegedly? Well, I'm not going to say allegedly anymore. It did happen. He's convicted, but they didn't use DNA or anything, right?
That's normal.
Really?
I can tell you that, and this is a line I've used in more than one closing argument. Sex offenses don't happen on the 50-yard line at the Super Bowl. These are extremely violent emotionally crimes on the victim. Sometimes victims don't disclose for 10, 15, 20 years. You've got kids who suppress these things for decades, and then suddenly it comes back out. Obviously, 10 years later, there is no DNA evidence. There may not be any evidence aside from what is coming out of the victim's mouth, but that's the way our system works. Beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean I have to drive up a truckload of evidence. The question as the jury, as the finder of fact, is this witness credible? Do I believe what they're saying, weighed against what's being said on the other side? And do I believe this crime happened beyond a reasonable doubt? And I can tell you, I've had 6, 7, 8-year-olds on the stand, the most credible witnesses you could imagine.
Right.
And that's enough sometimes. And it should be, because otherwise we'd have a lot of people walking around getting acquitted of sex offenses that shouldn't be.
And you have these women that testified, 2 of them, victims of this guy, this animal, and very emotional, of course. It'll affect you for your entire life. And, I believe these women 100%. Obviously, there are some cases where people, like the Duke lacrosse case, I think is a perfect example of that, where you have somebody who's mentally disturbed, who makes up a story about being raped. And it's so horrible on so many different fronts. First of all, you ruin people's lives for no reason. And number 2, it takes away from the real victims, right?
And that's true. And then you see the justice system, and we call it a pendulum in the legal profession. It swings one way and then it swings way back the other. Look at domestic violence. For years, women and men were both being abused and no one was talking about it. No one cared. No one was getting arrested. Now they go to a DV scene, Metro I'm talking about, almost guaranteed somebody's getting arrested. And that's because of the difference in the way we perceive these things. One could argue that it may have gone too far to one side now, because now you're sometimes arresting both parties for domestic violence. Now you have no witness really, because they're both going to plead the fifth. But that's the same thing with the sex cases. They were getting no notoriety. No one was talking about it, unless the real extreme serial rapist cases, you would see those in the news. But now it's being weaponized by some people, and that's gross, abhorrent behavior to accuse anyone of sexually assaulting you if they didn't do it, just to ruin their life. And the problem we have now is, how do we separate the liars from those who are telling the truth? Because once you weaponize the system like that, people will take advantage.
Yeah, and I think that's just as serious. Rape is, like I said, it's one of the most disgusting, vile things you could do in society. But lying about being sexually assaulted it's so horrible. And again, I go back to the Duke lacrosse case. Luckily, the truth was found. But there are some alleged crimes committed out there, and there are people out there that have been accused of doing things like a sexual assault or rape that they haven't done, and I can't imagine anything more horrible than that.
It's life-destroying.
Being labeled a rapist. Yeah. And listen, Masterson is a rapist. It was proven in a court of law.
Correct.
And not only is his acting career finished, but he's going to be going to jail for a long time. I think he was sentenced to 30 years. How much time do you think he'll spend?
That depends on the state. Usually with sexual related crimes, there is no time off the front. You only get time off the back. Here in Nevada, we sentence in a range. I cannot recall if there was a range on that case or not. Yeah. But I would assume that he is going to have to serve the majority of that. And I think most parole boards are going to be concerned about releasing him.
Mm-hmm. And again, another reason why Ashton Kutcher and Mia Kunis were taking a lot of flack, not just because of the letter, but the fact that they have called themselves champions for those of sexual assault. And they're involved in certain organizations that help victims. And if you're going to call yourself a champion of those and a supporter of those who have been the victim of sexual assault, you can't write a letter saying what a wonderful person somebody is that is a convicted rapist. And I think that's one of the main reasons why people have been going after them.
And that's a tough one because I'm familiar with the charity work they both do. Mm-hmm. They've done phenomenal charity work for sexual assault victims. I agree. It doesn't fit with the rest of the profile, but I mean, look, you never know how you're going to react to these situations. It happens to someone close to you. Mm-hmm. Maybe, and they probably do regret it now. I don't doubt it.
They apologized. They put out a video and they apologized. Listen, they're not the ones who committed the crime. We need to remember that. Right. It's Masterson who is the animal who sexually assaulted 2 women, and we're glad that he's sentenced and he's going to be going to jail for a long time because that's where he belongs. Mr. Tim Treffinger, always a pleasure having you in studio. Can you please give out the information? You're a highly skilled attorney. How can people contact you in your office if they need a good attorney on their side?
I appreciate that. So it's American Freedom Group is the name of the law firm. You can get my assistant directly at 702-333-5594. Again, that's 702-333-5594. We handle family court. We handle criminal. We handle civil. We try to do as much as we can for as little a cost to people as possible. I'm one of the few attorneys in town who still does flat fees on family court cases, which is almost unheard of.
I love that. You've done it all, pretty much, on both sides.
Unfortunately.
You've done it all. And you also give great sound legal advice to radio hosts like myself. So I do appreciate that, Tim. We're going to have you come down for some Monday night football parties this year and have a good time. Always appreciate it when you come in, Tim. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Brian.
All right, that's Tim Treffinger, everybody. And that's a wrap, man. This show's kind of like flown by. We've got some great guests lined up for you tomorrow, including one man who's a Republican who's going to be running for senator. He's going to be joining us in studio tomorrow. And Nicole Mitchell, always fun having her on. She's going to be joining us tomorrow as well. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.